And then we'll go back to our gallery view when we have our conversation together. Excellent. So our theme for the month of August has been and continues to be inclusion in action, auspicious authenticity. That's kind of like Sally sells seashells by the seashore, huh? So last week, our topic was Dharma 1, here to serve. And actually, last week was here for joy, and today is here to serve. That should say Dharma number 2. And last week, what we were talking about had to do, of course, with a teaching from the Bhagavad Gita that Deepak Chopra has put into really easy to understand language in a book he wrote some years ago called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. So in one of those laws, one of the chapters, it's actually towards the end of the book, is the law of Dharma or life purpose. And last week we talked about how when we identify our unique identity in spirit, and we identify those things that we're really good at, that we really have a knack for, and we do those things in joy, we obviously have excellent outcomes. We have a wonderful time doing those things. We really enjoy them. And the second part of the law of Dharma or purpose is that when we do these things in service to the fulfillment of the needs of others around us, everybody wins. There's something magical that happens when we be who we are, do what we love, do it in joy, in service to others. So this part 2 is about that. It is about the service piece. Now, when we think about what it means to be of service, I bet anybody here would probably say, well, of course, it means to do nice things for people, and maybe to do them without being asked, maybe do them freely, maybe help someone who's in need. We'd probably say we've got a pretty good idea of what that is. And yet, sometimes our best intentions result in disservice. We don't mean it to be that way. It just has to do with our lack of awareness of how we are approaching service, how we are trying to help. So first of all, I thought that maybe if we would explore the definition of service and our purpose in serving, that might help us on our way. We're also going to look at some words from a blog by a woman named Dr. Sean Megan Byrne, PhD, about what isn't healthy helping. So it's a combination of psychology and science of mind or spirituality that together could help us maybe be better helpers. Okay, so we begin with this idea, first of all, from a spiritual perspective, that we're born to win. We're born to win, which means that we are wired to love one another. We are designed and engineered and created to want to help one another. Of course we are. And psychology backs that up. Our survival and our well-being are tied in to this helping and serving. Of course they are. Life has some elements built into it to ensure that survival. And loving and serving is one of those elements. So here's a little bit of what service is from just a literal definition standpoint. It has to do with the action of helping or doing work for someone, an act of helping activity, assistance, favor, kindness, aid. They all sound familiar. A readiness or an availability to assist. If you group those ideas together a little bit, we have helping, helpful, or help. We have work or assistance. We have action, act, activity. We have for, favor, kindness, aid, and we have a readiness or an availability. Makes sense? right? That's something that's within all of us. So here are some of the words from, actually my paraphrasing from Healthy Helping and Giving from Sean Megan Byrne, PhD. And you can look up that blog. It's a Psychology Today blog. Some of the things that she says, of course, echo what's already been shared, that giving and helping are important aspects of our survival and our well-being. And yet sometimes, as we say, we can end up in a pickle when our best intentions go awry, when they go wrong somehow. And we don't want to stop caring for one another. We do want to learn how to do it well. So the psychologists echo the same thing that Chopra said also, which is that when we're doing this, when we're helping or serving in a healthy way, everybody wins. And part of the definition of that healthy way is going back to true authenticity, identity. Who are we really? What are we good at? What are we best at? We wouldn't want to try to help somebody from who we're not or what we're not good at. Of course, that wouldn't be joyful. It wouldn't be effective. It would be a half measure at best, right? And so again, Dharma or life purpose says the same thing that psychology says, which is that when we do this from that place of wholeness and authenticity, when we do it from a genuine desire to be of loving service, everybody wins. It is meaningful and fulfilling and enriching for both parties. So we have that. Here are a couple of quotes from Dr. Byrne's blog that say a little bit more about what healthy givers are. So healthy givers know the difference between healthy and unhealthy helping and giving. They help in ways that empower rather than enable. We've heard that before. They don't create or support unhealthy dependencies either. And their aid does not reduce others' self-confidence, competencies, and life skills. They don't try to fix people by controlling or micromanaging their change. Healthy helpers don't provide unsolicited and unwanted advice or task assistance. I didn't know that was a term. They help and give in sustainable ways that don't exceed their physical, emotional, or material resources. You know, when we give more than we have to give and then we end up resenting the people that we were trying to help, it happens, especially in helping professions and in caregiving. They give an aid that helps people progress in their lives rather than help that creates long-term dependency. So those are some of the pointers from a psychological standpoint about healthy giving and helping. So here's maybe what we do want to do. We do want to respond to the natural urge to care for one another, to experience the sense of meaning and purpose and fulfillment of active caring and service, to help in ways that empower others, to support others' authenticity, their skills, their joys, to help people to have their own growth experiences and to support them in finding their own answers and their own ways of doing things and having their own accomplishments. Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind and Spirit, which by the way is also referred to as a spiritual psychology, that there are a couple of things that are a baseline for all of us. One of them is this idea that we all have the divine givingness of spirit within us. That's a fancy term for that urge to give and to serve. It is our God self, our I am principle that is love itself and is looking for new ways to love in all the right places, in all the right ways. So we want to make sure that we do have an openness to that divine givingness, that we don't block it. Because if we block it, it doesn't help us and it doesn't help others. We want to be open to that so that we can be part of the distribution of love and good on the planet as we were designed to do. Also, Ernest Holmes talks about a couple of things in our teachings that we're quite familiar with, and one of them is that we are free. So if Spirit loves us enough to give us whatever you want to call it, the kingdom of heaven, or whatever you want to call that, and if Spirit loves us enough to make us free and leaves us to discover this on our own, which is a necessity of true freedom, because we're made in the image and likeness of the infinite, we can't have a completely finite experience. Then not only do we love as Spirit loves, we recognize the freedom of ourselves and others equally as Spirit does. And then we keep these spiritually inspired truths in mind when we're trying to help and serve others. So there's another piece that is an elemental or foundational aspect of being as well. And that's that the whole bailiwick, the whole game, whatever you want to call it, always comes with everything necessary for our complete fulfillment. So will we be willing to drop the idea that we live in a world of limitation, that there isn't enough, that we live in a world of separation from our good, and that necessitates separation from one another. That necessitates a belief in good and bad and right and wrong and yours and mine and them and theirs and division. All of those ideas that come along with the false package of duality or separation cause us to think that we need to compete. For what? Compete for attention, compete for love, compete for support, compete for service, compete for help, and on and on and on. And that's not real. That is not true. That's something that we have come to believe in. And so long as we believe in it, it will drive the way we see things, and it will drive the way we experience them. So what if we return to these things that we do want to do and remember those spiritual truths also? What if we do want to respond to the natural urge to care for one another, to experience that sense of meaning and purpose and fulfillment of active caring and service, help in ways that empower others, support their authenticity, their skills, their joys, help people to have their own experiences, and support them in finding their own answers and ways of doing things. We might have to sit on our hands or bite our tongues a little bit, and having their own accomplishments. Just imagine if we take that psychological advice plus what we know about ourselves spiritually and think our higher power, Spirit, the I am principle, our Creator has made us out of love itself, has made us free, and knows that we need to be free to discover this marvelous life on our own, and has provided everything that we require. What would our helping look like then? So the two questions that we're going to talk about after we transition from this part of our program will be, and I'll remind you what they are later, is one, how will your helping and serving be better knowing these things? And two, how will your receiving help and service be improved knowing these things? Because of course, we're all in this together. So sometimes our trip up is in how we try to help someone. And sometimes our trip up is in what to do when we're offered help that doesn't quite feel right. Can we learn to re-identify, to dig in and find out what the motive is behind that and clear it up and clear up that giving and receiving and that helping and that receiving of help? I believe we can, because we have more knowledge and understanding than we used to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to a song and sing along with that as a help in remembering why we're really here, to love, serve, and remember. And then we'll transition out of this part of our program and move into our reflection connection, which is our conversation together. And at that time, we'll also have a prayer ministry available. So